This is a lightning abstract presentation on the association of electronic nicotine delivery systems, ENDS use with asthma in adolescents, a systematic review and meta-analysis presented by Daevina Charles. There are no financial conflict of interest to disclose. Electronic nicotine delivery systems, ENDS, are handheld devices that emit aerosols via inhalation of a solution containing propylene glycol and or glycerin, nicotine, and flavoring chemicals. The Surgeon General states that adolescents often initiate ENDS use due to curiosity, low perceived harm, and the appealing flavors. Approximately 1 in 5 high school children and 1 in 20 middle school children are currently using ENDS. This is concerning because nicotine exposure can cause addiction and harm the developing brain. Furthermore, ENDS affect airway physiology by increasing airway resistance and respiratory symptoms in healthy and asthmatic smokers. Asthma is a chronic disease of the lungs that causes airway narrowing and inflammation, leading to coughing, wheezing, or shortness of breath. Approximately 9.9% of 12 to 17-year-olds currently have asthma. The aim of this systematic review and meta-analysis is to determine if there's a difference in the prevalence of asthma among ENDS adolescent users compared to non-ENDS adolescent users. Here is a Prisma flowchart demonstrating the selection process used in this study. Several databases, including PubMed, Scopus, and Ovid, were searched, and we found 2,637 articles. Then, through a rigorous selection process, we found that there were 9 articles included in our qualitative synthesis and 6 articles included in our meta-analysis. Each article was analyzed using PICO. The populations included people inside the US and people outside the US. There was a combined sample size of almost 500,000 when looking at all our articles in total. Study designs ranged from cross-sectional to being longitudinal. The objectives of each article was noted. The intervention included ENDS use, and ENDS use was described as being an end user within the past 30 days, whereas a non-ENDS user was someone who had not used ENDS in the past 30 days. Our comparison was asthma versus no asthma, with asthma being defined as doctor or nurse having diagnosed a patient with asthma. Outcomes for each article were noted, specifically the prevalence of ENDS use in asthmatics and the odds ratio of adolescent asthmatic and ENDS use was evaluated. 8 of the 9 articles reported an association between ENDS use and asthmatic adolescents. 1 article reported that ENDS use was similar between asthmatics and non-asthmatic adolescents. 3 articles were excluded due to inconsistent response variable definition, and 6 articles were included in the meta-analysis, 3 of which were conducted in the US and 3 in Korea. 2 studies observed ENDS use in the high school population, and 4 articles observed middle and high school population. The odds ratio of being an asthmatic adolescent if they are a current ENDS user, with a current ENDS user being defined as using ENDS in the past 30 days, and a non-ENDS user having used ENDS in the past 30 days. This is a forest plot demonstrating the combined results of all our articles. The odds ratio, according to the random effects model, was 1.4, with a 95% confidence interval of 1.19 to 1.64. This indicates that there is a significant association between ENDS use and asthma. Heterogeneity, or I-squared, was 91%, with a p-value of less than 0.01. The combined studies demonstrate a high heterogeneity, which suggests that the paper may not be combinable. However, upon investigation into possible sources of the heterogeneity, such as location in the sample population, there was no apparent source of heterogeneity, and we concluded that the heterogeneity observed could be from the small number of articles available for analysis. Of note, the articles included in this study are the most current literature on our topic. Our study also indicated that the odds of finding an asthmatic are 1.4 times higher among adolescent ENDS users than among adolescent non-ENDS users. There are several possible explanations for this, including the perception by asthmatics that ENDS are less harmful than cigarettes, resulting in subsequent experimentation with ENDS, and the perception by asthmatics that addiction related to ENDS is less likely. This study provides evidence of asthmatics engaging in potentially risky behavior. Therefore, physicians should advise against ENDS use. The results presented in this study apply only to adolescents in this population. However, the results may be applied to populations with similar characteristics. In conclusion, there is a significant association between ENDS use and asthmatic adolescents. While causality cannot be determined by this analysis, this data reinforces the pressing need for education and interventions to reduce ENDS use in adolescents, especially those who have or are at risk for developing asthma. I'd like to thank Dr. Theodore Gaeta, Dr. Paul Fields, and Dr. Matt Briggs, and thank you very much for listening.